contractor work for 9 months, 16 months, 19 months without getting paid.
So you see how much kidnappers are taking from victims.
My bill is government should, I think all the stakeholders in that sector, they need to be spoken to, and we sit together and appeal to them.
The 3% for the oil producing community is too low.
So it is support that is needed. And once you get the support, your airlines will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning. It's Inside Nigeria, Wednesday morning here at the nation capital of Abuja. And of course, good morning to you, our dear listeners out there. As usual, you can see I'm with my co-anchor, Winifred Ogebo this morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to Inside Nigeria. Thank you once again for joining us.
Yeah, and of course, the technical team has let the cat out of the bag. Our regular analyst is here with us this morning, Majid Dairu. Majid Dairu is an Abuja-based public affairs analyst and a syndicated columnist. Good morning, Majid.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Welcome to Inside Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Winifred, I don't know, there are also issues of, developing story from the last 3 days when the Northern governors met,
Yes.
issue of rotation, North-South dichotomy, and the rest of them.
Yes.
And economic issue are also there.
Yeah, so it's like that. There was something.
Which one to even tackle?
Yes, there was something that we discussed. We were like, of all the issues, especially the security,
Insecurity.
besetting the not solely politics that they could come up with. And somebody enlightened me that no, it's the media that treated it. Actually, security was the force on their agenda.
Well, maybe
But media
politics
chose the one.
is the end thing as we speak.
that we said. I was like, wow.
All right, we have issues, a lot of them to talk today on Inside Nigeria. And of course, as usual, we're starting with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, The Leadership. On the front page of Leadership this morning, power shift. Northern groups divided over Kaduna Declaration. Power shift. Northern groups divided over Kaduna Declaration. Middle Belt youths disown Northern governors, traditional rulers. Resolution portends bleak future. Nigeria collapsing under Northern leadership, according to Ohaneze Indigo. And of course, the last rider to this story is saying, "You are sick." Ariwa Consultative Forums fires back. You are sick. Ariwa Consultative Forum fires back. I think firing back at those opposed to the Northern Declaration. What is known as Northern Declaration today is the resolution of the meeting of the Northern Governors Forum held 2 days ago in Kaduna. Majid, potpourri of issues. What's your take?
It can be better described.
Okay.
Northern groups divided over Kaduna Declaration. Yes, this is symptomatic of the division in Northern Nigeria. The monolithic North has long given way, to different religious spheres of influence in the North. And so the North is not that united monolith that it used to be in the Fourth Republic. And we are beginning to see the consequences of that. Of course, the Northern governors met in Kaduna. Notably, some governors were absent. I don't know if Benin was there.
The deputy was represented.
Okay, that means they were there.
They were there, okay. So, well, we've seen this, tendency to speak in discordant tones, even from the Northern region. Now, on the issue of the resolutions, the most important one that came out of that resolution was the issue of power shift to the south, whether or not to do. My understanding of the communique, however, is that I don't think the Northern governors are rejecting power shift to the south, outrightly. I don't think so. Because a number of governors in that meeting, Governor Zulum, and some other governors in the north, including the governor of Nasarawa recently, have expressed the desire to shift power to the south.
True.
And that community actually captured it as well, notwithstanding the fact that some of these governors individually have expressed. And we've seen that in the ruling party, there is a move to shift power to the south. It's clear, it's obvious. Governor Rufai said, the host governor himself said it's time to turn over. That power should shift to the south, and he's not interested in the presidency or even the vice presidency. However, I think they are reacting to what they describe as the forceful language being used by the governor.
Exactly. That's what I was just waiting for you to say. It's just basically an ego thing. If you ask
It's an
me.
ego thing.
You didn't expect them to say, okay, Southern governor said power must return to us.
So,
okay, true, we are giving you power. No, they are just have to also maintain their own
Yes,
stance.
but I also think that in doing that, what the governor should have done was simply to ignore and not to come out and make statement that is now being interpreted as if the North has taken a stand against power shift to the south, which has gone a long way to overheat the politics. As you are seeing people calling themselves names and throwing reports at each other. So I think the Northern governors should have simply ignored, because trying to debate over the word must is trivializing a very serious issue. And it is this trivialization that has resulted into what we are seeing between yesterday and today. So I think they should have simply ignored and focus on security. And at the appropriate time, come out to make a statement, a definite statement when the time is close by. However, it's important to reiterate that when they said that zoning is not constitutional, that in itself is also a fallacious statement. Zoning is constitutional. In fact, what is not constitutional is what they're actually saying, that power should be decided by just the numbers, by the population. And you all know that the North, particularly the Northwest, is the largest voting demography in Nigeria. So it is that mentality, that covetousness over power at the center, based on our internal population, that is not constitutional, because the Constitution says you must distribute resources, positions, equitably and fairly to reflect a national character, a federal character, and to command national loyalty. So within this context, zoning is very constitutional. And at this point of our development, we cannot do zoning for now. But I would like the North to actually set an agenda for the rest of the country. In picking a candidate from the South, two things must be achieved. It's like killing two birds with one stone. Zoning itself is to take care of the issue of justice, equity, and fairness, but without prejudice to competence. So we should look for a competent candidate from the South that can rise above primordial sentiments of ethnicity and religion. We do not want a situation where we have a Southern president that will now attempt to elevate Southern interests above Northern interests. We want a leader from the South that will recognize that there are no regional developmental strategy within a united country. What you can have is an integrated development strategy that pulls both sides together. Kano cannot develop without Aba, for example. In the same way that Enugu, the refineries in Enugu, the distilleries in Enugu, and the brews in Enugu cannot function without the wheat and grape from the north. So we need an integrated development strategy for export competitiveness. So we should look out for a leader in the south that will be like that. And when you come back to the north, we should also look out for a pan-Nigerian candidate. That should be the focus.
But Mr. Majid, don't you think that we are taking focus away from the main thing, looking for competence? Because how has it, having presidents from each zone, like for instance, we have president from the north now currently, and it has not helped the security situation in the north. Same thing with Jonathan. When Jonathan was there, the east-west road is there, they develop it. So when are we going to take our eyes away from ethnicity?
That's where the issue of competence now.
Now, you raise a very important question. You know, the purpose for zoning in the first place was not for the north, for example, when it is turned to take a larger chunk of nationality. That was not the purpose.
It's a sense of belonging.
It's simply to build trust and confidence. To say, look, a Southerner can be president without shortchanging the northern, because we are one people, really. So it's for us to like build that confidence. Say, look, I can hold this thing, and you'll be safe and secure, and your welfare will be taken care of, and vice versa. Obasanjo experimented this nearly perfectly in his first 8 years. He was able to rise above ethnicity and religion and united this country. And we made prosperity, we made progress in every front. He paid off our debts, left us in our account, developed infrastructure, expanded the civil service, increased minimum wage, restored Nigeria's middle class that was lost in the 70s. Nigeria had it good in the 80s because he was able to unify the country. And he ran a pan-Nigerian
Government.
presidency. Yet also sustained it to some extent. You can see that as president, he brought peace to the Niger Delta. So much such that when he was sick, his support base in the south was unshaken. In fact, they preferred him to their own son, Jonathan, who was the president of the takeover. The southern members of the cabinet preferred the right to remain in presidency until death. It was even the northern members of the cabinet that moved for Jonathan to take over. So it tells you how we consolidated on this issue. But when Jonathan violated his own formula in 2011, it reversed his gains. No matter what Jonathan did in the north, of course, you recall that Jonathan did the most in independent Nigeria to bring the north out of educational disadvantage. His advantage school initiatives, 9 universities in the north, and all of that. It was not appreciated because he violated his own formula, and the north reacted furiously. So furiously that Jonathan didn't have peace throughout his tenure. And when he attempted to violate the second time, northern elements even within the PDP and the APC.
Yes.
But let me also add this. This is just one side of the story. Southerners resisted Jonathan's version of the zoning formula in 2011. Southerners. It will interest to know this. Most people don't know this. The PDP chairman then, when Adua died in 2010, was a Southeasterner, Vincent Obulafor. He declared immediately that no Southerner should vie for the presidency because it is still the turn of the North. Because Jonathan was interested, somehow Obulafor was removed. Another Southeasterner was brought, the former governor of the State, as party chairman. He was very tactical. When the North brought up Atiku as a constitutional candidate within the PDP, Okwesile was working for that candidate. It was only discovered 2 days to the primary election. And to remove him, they had to bring a court case from somewhere. He was removed on the convention ground. Because he was committed to delivering what he felt was the rightful candidate within the context of justice and fairness. He was removed. It was also interesting to know that of the 3 or of the 4 presidential candidates that ran, that ran against Jonathan in the primaries, before Atiku was propped up as the constitutional candidate. I'm talking about former President Bangida, Ali Gusso, Saraki, and Atiku himself.
Yes.
They all had their coordinators from the south. In fact, Southeasterners coordinated for 2 of these other candidates. People like people like ABC, Professor ABC Wonsu, people like Udenta. What am I saying in essence? Nigerians are people that are committed to zoning. And so want to see the North committed to this same zoning because that is the last ditch attempt to save Nigeria's unity and cohesiveness. Without which the North itself will be at the receiving end. Without the oil resources from the south, without access to the sea from the south, the North will likely fall under the control of non-state actors that are heavily armed, Boko Haram and bandits. So in the interest of the North, we shouldn't even debate further about the propriety of zoning to the south. It is sacrosanct, it is settled, it is final, and it is constitutional. What we should be considering is a competent southerner that will develop Nigeria as an integrated national, and united country. And that's all. That's what should be the focus. And not this back and forth over power shift. It's something we shouldn't talk about. It is settled. It has to go to the south.
Well,
Thank
nice
you
one
so
there.
much.
We need to move away from politics to
Yes.
economy.
National Economy, our sister publication, and it has today why rising oil prices would benefit Nigeria. Economist. Why rising oil prices would benefit Nigeria. Economist. Yesterday, the National Economy reported that in October, the oil price per barrel will rise to $100 per barrel. And today, the economists are saying that the rising oil prices will benefit Nigeria.
No, it will not. In fact, it's double jeopardy for Nigeria when oil prices rise. Because we're going to pay higher for refined petrol. And we're not going to pay higher. We're going to spend the excess money it earns from this to subsidize it for us to consume. And this brings back to the question of the failure of government to ensure domestically secured energy sources for Nigerians. As an oil producer, it is a shame. It's embarrassing. It is an abomination that Nigeria still depends on importation of refined petroleum products. And this is something I've always questioned. The concept of education is this Washington consensus about government having no business in business is the reason we are where we are today. Government has business doing business, and the only business of government is actually doing business. As an oil producing country, the federal government of Nigeria is supposed to take firm charge of the means of production in the downstream as well as the upstream, even the midstream oil and gas industry, without shutting out private participants. But governments are supposed to actually own refineries, sell crude oil to those refineries at discounted rate for the refining of domestically consumed products, and export the excess. Government is supposed to own refineries. Government must be able to own and maintain its own refineries. The private sector cannot do it. You can see the way even Dangote refinery is struggling to come on stream. It tells you this is not the responsibility of a private company. Saudi Arabia is an oil producing country like Nigeria. Saudi Aramco is one of the world's largest oil companies. It is owned 98% by the government of Saudi Arabia. Today, it has been run well, to such an extent that by 2018, it was the world's most valuable company with billions of dollars in profits. It might interest to know that Saudi Arabia owns more than 50 refineries at home and owns the largest refinery in Saudi Arabia, in America. The Port Arthur refinery in Texas is owned by Saudi Aramco. What it means is that they are even refining for Americans to consume, thereby bringing in massive foreign exchange. 10 out of the largest oil and gas industries in the world, companies in the world, are state-owned companies. From Petronas to Gazprom to Petrobras of Brazil, name them, even to the Chinese National Oil Company. It might interest to know that the refinery in Niger that is being built is actually a joint venture between the Nigerian government and the Chinese government, government to government. So when government says it cannot maintain its own refinery, it's a sign of utter failure that we should not condone as citizens.
So why do you think successive governments have failed to put the refineries?
Because we are operating under a philosophy that says government has no business in business, which is flawed all over the world. Government has business in business. In fact, for a developing economy like Nigeria, there are three sectors that government cannot relinquish completely to private sector. So government has to dominate these three sectors. What are these three sectors? Oil and gas, power, iron and steel. The government of Nigeria by now should have associated the Ajakuta steel plant.
It has budgeted money for it.
Well, year in, year out, they budget money for overhead. They budget money for overhead and some other recurrent expenditure.
People are there working.
Yeah, they're working.
Or doing nothing to get something.
But the plant itself is not one. Government is still trying to privatize Ajakuta forever. And nobody's interested in buying Ajakuta because you know why? Our privatization experience in 1999 has shown that if a company not even well run by government, it will get investors. When Saudi Aramco, after it was declared the most valuable company in 2018, decided to divest just 1.5% of its shares, it was oversubscribed by over $4 trillion. Because it's valuable. Who wants to buy Nigerian refineries? Who wants to buy the Ajakuta steel plant? Where you don't have access to road to the steel plant, where you don't have adequate power to power the plant? Who wants to buy your moribund infrastructure or assets? Nobody wants to buy them, except corporate undertakers that want to simply buy the assets to balkanize them for some other things.
Sell them as
So
crops.
government must do business. The government of America does business. Again, let me tell you this: the internet you're using today is a government program of the United States of America. In fact, American government does this to the point that they actually have partnership with Hollywood to produce movies that help them to do national orientation. So governments all over the world do businesses. I don't know where we got this idea from. The government does not do business, and we abandoned our national security economic assets
To private individuals.
and they are not able to manage it. Look at the mess in the power industry today, the power sector. Look at the mess in the petroleum and gas industry. And no amount of PIA can help us. Government needs to sit down and change this philosophy. When some of us voted for President in 2015, we thought it was going to have a paradigm shift away from what the PDP was operating since 1999. Unfortunately, they copied it wrongly and pasted it even more wrongly. And today we are into the crisis we are. So we're having rise in price of crude. We can't benefit from it. It's going to bring pains to us. Yes, it's going to bring pains.
Thank you very much, Majid. We need to go on a short break. When we come back, we will examine the front page of the third paper up on our menu this morning. We'll be right back.
time for a standing ovation for a country once called Niger area, but now Nigeria. 8 Governor Generals. Head of states. Six presidents.
Nigeria, a country filled with milk and honey, gained her independence in 1960 from the British colony. However, became a republic in 1963. Since then, she has flourished in different sectors: agriculture, economy, health, sports, and many more.
36 states, 1 federal capital, diverse ethnic groups. Today, Nigeria is 61. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. And of course, you are still tuning to Inside Nigeria here at the Leadership Podcast Studio. And of course, we are still with their guest analyst, Majid Dairu. Majid Dairu is an Abuja-based public affairs analyst. Well, Majid, thank you for being with us
Thank you very
all
much.
this far. Well, we're checking what is on the front page of this day. And of course, this day, this morning, 2023, Ohaneze Roas condemns northern governors. Berates PDP. 2023, Ohaneze Ndigbo Roas condemns northern governors. Berates PDP. States how Balewa, Gowon, Mohammed Shagari, others underdeveloped North, says another northern president will destroy nation's unity. At Tedo Peterside, zoning is about political expediency, compromise. Zoning is about political expediency, compromise, according to foremost banker at Tedo Peterside. Well, this story is similar to what we discussed earlier on the front page of leadership. I think the only new angle to this is the attack on the People's Democratic Party by the Igbo, the Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Group, Ohaneze Ndigbo, thinking probably PDP is not disposed to zoning presidency.
Yes,
to
the
the
PDP
Southeast
didn't
Council.
prepare for 2023, unfortunately.
Oh, that's the silent
They
question.
did not. And I don't want to make any prediction, but one thing is clear, they did not.
Okay.
They were a bit simplistic about the approach, thinking if the northerner will inherit, the large voting demography and simply just get elected. So they wanted power at all costs.
Yes.
But now they risk losing their own base without even guarantees that the northerner would necessarily defeat the southerner that is supported by the incumbent party. So if the PDP zones its candidacy to the north, as was already planned, it might not win the election in the long run, but it will now lose its base in the south
Yes.
that has sustained it in the last 6 years.
That is southeast.
Southeast and south. And so,
Yes, southeast and south.
so the PDP might come out of that election almost an extinct political party because it would have, of course, as long as the north in 2015 when he zoned the candidate to the south, and would have lost the south when he zoned it to the north in 2023. So the PDP is in a serious dilemma to speak.
That is straight.
Look at this angle, finally. The allegation that presidents of Northern Extraction or head of state underdeveloped the North. The former Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, former head of state Yakubu Gowon, another former head of state Murtala Muhammad, former president Shehu Shagari underdeveloped the North, according to
I don't know where Ohaneze got this fact from because this was Nigeria's finest hour. The period you had Balewa as Prime Minister, Gowon as president, as military head of state, Murtala Muhammad as military head of state. Shagari was, in fact, that Stephen we're talking about today, that is in northern Nigeria, was actually
conceived by the
not
Shagari.
just conceived. They started the construction. They actually took it as far as 90-something% completion.
As of 1980 something.
As of 90-something.
Huh.
And Shagari was a nationalist. He ran one of the most nationalistic governments that brought healing, reconciliation to the entire country. So much so that we didn't have agitation for either Biafra or Duduwa or any other form of separatism in Nigeria under Shagari. So in as much as we want to take on people that have said they won't give you power, we must do within the confines of fact, figures, and truth. And we should also adopt a less confrontational approach. I think we have to take a cue from what I tell people is saying. Is compromise is political expediency. In as much as it is desirable for power to shift to the south for the purpose of equity and fairness and unity. The way Ohaneze too is going about it from their statement here is one that might lead to hardening of ground. And even some of the moderates in the north and liberals in the north that have always said, look, give it to the south. May begin to have a rethink. So, yes, you can't insult people to get power. No. It's something that we should never condone. We should simply make demands and allow these demands to be accepted without resorting to foul language.
All right, we need to move to the last paper on our list this morning.
Punch. On Punch newspaper this morning says federal government releases fresh debtors list November. 77 oil firms owe 2.66 trillion naira. Federal government releases fresh debtors list November as 77 oil firms owe 2.66 trillion naira. And on the right that we have firms fail to remit petroleum profit tax, income tax, education tax, VAT, others. We are partnering EFCC and FIU to recover 2.6 trillion naira from oil firms, says agency. That is Punch.
The agency they are talking about in this report is the Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, NIATI. It is coming out to say, well, oil companies, 77 of them are owing Nigeria 2.66 trillion naira. This is, I don't know how to call it, but will you blame the oil companies or you will blame the country that does not have the right, whether legal or whatever framework to get these things
to
maximize
revenue
exactly from our
from the oil and gas industry.
resources. Exactly.
Let's hope the PI will help. I just hope so. But you see, law cannot operate itself. It depends on those that are operating the law. And that brings us to the question of who actually own some of these firms that are defaulted in tax. Who are their friends in government? Where do their allegiances lie behind the scene? This also brings back to the question of government and business. A government that is doing business will not allow this to happen. This cannot happen because it's doing business about efficiency. It's about prudence. It's about how you manage resources to maximize profit. So I'm saying to take care of all of these issues, all of these problems you are seeing, is for a government to adopt the posture of a businessman as government. In fact, without a government that is doing business, business cannot even thrive. So we need to have a paradigm shift from this neoliberal concept that we have taken out of context completely, that government has no business in business. And so government is now only doing politics and no longer doing governance. So we need to set the agenda and the narrative too, that look, government, go back to doing business. Roll up your sleeves. Work hard so that government apparatus can function maximally for the prosperity and security of Nigerians in the long run.
Well, many thanks to you, Majid Dairu, for creating time to join us.
Thank you very much.
On Inside Nigeria. And of course, as I usually say, we hope to see more of you on this show.
Thank you very much.
All right, Majid Dairu is an Abuja-based public affairs analyst. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Jide Ojo, an Abuja-based public affairs analyst and columnist, to discuss 2023 election and the imperative of electronic transmission of results. We'll be right back.
It's time for a standing ovation. for a country once called Nigeria, but now Nigeria. 8 Governor Generals. Head of states. Six presidents.
Nigeria, a country filled with milk and honey, gained her independence in 1960 from the British colony. However, became a republic in 1963. Since then, she has flourished in different sectors: agriculture, economy, health, sports, and many more.
36 states, 1 federal capital, diverse ethnic groups. Today, Nigeria is 61. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Welcome back. It's still inside Nigeria, and of course, as we announced earlier, we have been joined by Jide Ojo, an Abuja-based public affairs analyst and a syndicated columnist, to discuss 2023 elections, imperative of electronic transmission of results. Incidentally, welcome Jide Ojo. Welcome to Inside
It's a
Nigeria.
pleasure.
Welcome to Inside
Good morning,
Nigeria.
Nigerians.
Yeah, incidentally, this morning you authored a column in the Punch, which addressed a similar matter. And I think let me use your opening remark to actually ask the first question. You said it is not important to hold election alone. Election must be free and fair. It's not just important to just hold election, but election must be credible and free and fair. And incidentally, discussion are ongoing about granting INEC the power to transmit elections in 2023 electronically. You are also talking about collation electronically. Now, what is the place of electronic machine or digitization in our electoral process?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I esteem it a great privilege and honor. Like you said, I wrote last Friday. I got a soft copy of the policy paper that INEC did. It's a 24-page paper where it articulated its own concern on how to deepen credibility of our elections, and which is also a veiled or indirect response to the raging debate about the desirability or otherwise of electronic transmission of results. Majority of Nigerians want our elections to be better than what it has. Like I said, election has become a hollow ritual in Nigeria. So every 4 years, we spend billions to hold the election. But people are asking, what's the credibility quotient of those elections? And I think that's more important for me than the fact that we have been faithful in holding elections, particularly under this Fourth Republic as at when due. So elections should not just be an hollow ritual. Elections should actually be about credible recruitment of our governors and political leaders. So I read the INEC publication on election result or electronic transmission of results. And it jumped out at me what many Nigerians do not know, that over the years, the commission, successive commission have been trying to deepen the credibility of our elections through infusion of technology in the electoral process. So they started with, way back in 2006, with what is called biometric voter registration. What Nigerians need to understand is that there are 4 components of what is called electronic voting system, EVS, electronic voting system. So it starts with electronic biometric compilation of voters register. Then the second is biometric verification of voters or accreditation. So the first is compilation registration. The second is accreditation through biometric means. That's where you have the use of smart card data to authenticate that the person who has come forward is actually the owner of that PVC and is not impersonating. Then the third component is electronic balloting, which is otherwise popularly called electronic voting. But again, when Nigerians talk about electronic voting, they want it like it's done with Nigeria Bar Association or Nigeria Society of Engineers, where they do internet voting. But that's not what INEC meant when it says electronic. It has to be at the polling unit. So electronic balloting is the third component out of the EVS, electronic voting system. The last but not the least is the electronic transmission and collation. Because what we are after, in fact, even I, despite following through with our electoral process in the last 22 years, never knew that electronic transmission of result, as we currently have it, what INEC does with ZPAD, with IRF, that's a result viewing portal that it has established, it's not even electronic transmission. It is that paper that broke it down to say that that's not what the commission is talking about as electronic transmission. This one that they scan EC form 60 on the IRF portal, that's a election review portal. Because if you scan and upload, it's just polling unit result. What about collation? And our problem with the election in Nigeria is collation. It's not even the polling unit result.
Yes.
When you have voted, I believe Winifred have voted, when you vote, you know who has won in your unit.
Yes.
But when it comes to the aggregation of all the votes, you start seeing 000 after. Look at what happened in Osun in 2018.
Exactly.
The knife edge tension, this vote that separated the winner from the loser was less than 1,523 votes. And there were accusations that in the Irewole local government there was manipulation of the collation. In fact, one person was even arrested. And because a clear-cut winner could not emerge at the first ballot, they had to do supplementary election in some few polling units. And we knew what happened there. So what is being said is INEC is now putting out its own position that what they intend to do has 11 merits or advantages that it will, and they responded to the fears that National Assembly is having, particularly the Senate, that has said that, okay, for you to deploy this solution, first, you need assurances from National Communication Commission that you can do it safely and securely. And then you get the final approval from us. And INEC is saying that would be a breach of constitution.
Is that you are usurping his powers?
Because Section 78, Section 118, Section 160, and Paragraph 15 sub A of the third schedule of the Commission, as if you read all of this together, has given INEC unfettered power to conduct, supervise, and organize elections. So if you now say, meanwhile, INEC is a federal executive body. Section 153 of the Constitution. It's a federal executive body. So how can a federal executive body recognized by the Commission now have to go and meet an agency that was created by National Assembly to say, okay, is it okay for us to hold this? And INEC also came out in that position paper.
An institution run by politicians.
Thank you. And you know, I'm coming to that. Now look at it this way, my brother. In 2018, NCC and mobile network operators, MNOs, gave INEC a clean bill of health to say that we can help you to do electronic transmission of results. 2018 August, signed by NCC. The same NCC was brought to the floor of House of Reps on January 16 this year, on July 16, to come and say whether INEC can deploy or not. The man that came, technical services, said INEC cannot deploy. But in 3 years ago, INEC can deploy. You signed that INEC can deploy. I'm referring to your issue about politics. So if in 2018 INEC can do it with your support, INEC said, and it did publish an extract of that report, where they said the mobile network operator and NCC said to INEC, they gave 3 scenarios, and they advised INEC on the last option, which is the best. They said they have, as at that time, 2018, they have 93% coverage. 93% coverage, and the 7% they can deploy an what's called an emergency solution to cover, make 100%. Are you saying there has not been fresh infrastructural development in the last 3 years as to give us 100%? And INEC came out and said in that position paper that this does not even have to do with 4G, 5G, 3G, 1G. It's not about that for you to do electronic transmission. And that it has done this electronic transmission in over 20 states in 26 elections. So they know they are ready. They can, if the election management body give them the go ahead, for 2023 election, they can do electronic transmission of result. But it's not only transmission of result, but collation. So the law had to be amended to empower them to be able to do that. And that's what jumped at me that made me to write this article. That look, ignorance is a bliss. Peradventure, members of the National Assembly who voted to say that I do not know, I'm playing the devil's advocate here, that either they do not know or they choose to ignore. Because I've done an opinion article earlier on this same issue in July, where I said, going by past experience in 2018, where the same National Assembly, being mischievous, passed the electoral bill saying that INEC should conduct election on 3 days, not 3 consecutive days, 3 days. First, they should have the election of National Assembly. Second, they should have the presidential election. Third, they should have election of state governors and House of Assembly. Section clause 25 in 2018. 2, they also there was something else they also tried to do, which the president cited as one of the reasons why he could not assent to that law. And we lost that opportunity in 2018 because on 4 different occasions the president returned the bill and said, I'm withholding assent. And if we are to obviate and circumvent that repeating itself, we should not put that controversial clause 52 sub 3, which is saying that INEC should first get clearance from NCC and final note from the National Assembly, who are going to be up for elections in that same 2023.
But many sons were calling on the INEC to go to court to challenge it. I'm surprised INEC has not done so.
No. INEC have to err on the side of caution. You see, there have been previous court decisions. You cannot challenge something that is inchoate. The process has not been concluded until when the law has been signed, You can now approach the court. It happened in 2001. There was a controversial electoral act 2001, and people went to, I think INEC was one of those who went to court to challenge that electoral act, and the court struck out many of the provisions. At the end of the day, they have to promulgate the 2002 edition. It has happened before. In 2006, I recall that the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties went to court, and Justice Abimbola Oge of the Federal High Court here in Abuja actually struck out Section 91 of that 2006 Electoral Act. On what basis? The CNPP went to court to say that Section 228C of the Constitution had talked about equitable distribution of financial grant to political parties. Then the Electoral Act made provision for grants to be given to registered political parties. But that time, Section 91 of that law gave parties that have representation in the National Assembly almost 90% of everything. And CNPP, Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, went to court and said, look, this is not equitable distribution that the Constitution is talking about. And Justice Abimbola Oge said, yes, in the light of Section 228C of the Constitution, this Section 91 is an infraction of the Constitution. So it has happened, but you see, if you go to court now, the court will say, you are running faster than your leg. Let the whole exercise be concluded. Once the president has signed and INEC sees or deems it that his power has been usurped, his constitutional power has been usurped, I'm sure the commission will approach the court. Otherwise, civil society or organizations, including the Nigeria Bar Association, have gotten ready to say that if this particular controversial section 52.3 is allowed to go and the president signs it, they will go to court to challenge it. But you know, let me bring it to our viewing public. The hypocrisy and the politics are afloat. I hosted on my show this morning a national commissioner in Ireland, Barrister Festus Okoye. And in that article that is under discussion here, I actually raised that. I'm referencing Okoye because he confirmed what I knew. See, this whole controversy about electoral bill should not have happened. Why did I say that? In 2019, the National Assembly agreed to a joint committee to review the Electoral Act. You know, when they said joint committee, that means if they said there is a joint committee on budget or appropriation bill, that means the version that is passed by the House is the version that will be passed by the Senate. So there will be no need for conference committee. So you set up a joint committee to work on the bill. You finish that work. You raised a technical committee, a wider technical committee that consists of not only members of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, but also representation from INEC, also representative from the Office of Attorney General and Minister of Justice, which, as I have said on this platform, I think last week, every bill, before the president signs a bill, you can't go to the president today with a bill and he will sign that same day. He has a window of 30 days. That 30 days, once the bill gets to him from the Clerk of National Assembly, he will send it first, a copy of that bill, to the Office of Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Second, he will send it to affected agency of government, all the agents that will be affected by that bill. So that's the standard practice, standard operating procedure. Now, in order to wade through the kind of challenge that we had in 2018, the National Assembly set up a joint committee. The joint committee sat, deliberated. Then they set up a technical committee. And Okoye confirmed to me this morning, Festus Okoye Esquire, confirmed to me this morning that he was even the chairperson of that committee, of that technical committee. This committee finished their work in April this year. And I've pointed out this mischief on the part of National Assembly. They finished their work in April, but the bill was not tabled for discussion until July. Why so? Why so? Just like they did with Petroleum Industry Act. Now, if you have a joint committee and that committee agreed and all of you sign on to that report, why is there a variation in the version that was passed by Senate and that of House of Reps? When we were not told that they have a disagreement when they met at that committee level, joint committee level, or at the technical committee level. So the deliberate, if you follow through, it was barely 5 days to the tabling of that report that we had from Grapevine that Senate committee has gone to do another work behind, introducing different clauses than the one they agreed on. And you know what has happened now? According to Policy and Legal Advocacy Center plan, they have compared the version that was passed by the House of Reps and the version passed by House of and Senate. They discovered 18 differences. 18.
Yeah, I think, Jide, why you have that happening is that even though there were joint committee, but I can tell you that the National Assembly chambers actually held public hearings differently. The House of Rep Committee on Electoral Matters held its own public hearing differently, while the Senate Committee also entertained people's input differently. So because of that scenario, of course, there's bound to be differences, which the Conference Committee of the National Assembly now is about to harmonize. But then let me quickly move to the next question because of time. You identified flawed election in Mali and Guinea to be reason given by the military juntas for taking power. You can see our own situation in Nigeria here now. We have also flawed electoral process, even though I know the reform is a work in progress. But then there seems not be a concerted effort by political actors to make sure that this thing actually works. So should we now nurse a fear that tomorrow the military guys can just show up?
I pray against so. Even though I've speculated that, I asked a question in my column 3 weeks ago. I said, can a military coup take place in Nigeria again? And there are diverse responses, but never say never. Never say never, because as I said in the opening column of my Punch newspaper or my article today, I did point out that the first coup in Nigeria, January 15, 1966, if you go and look at what Kaduna Nzeogwu, who led the 5 majors who struck to overthrow the government at that time, part of the things they said was that we have an disputed election, which led to Operation Wet here in Southwest, where a lot of people were killed, a lot of homes were burnt, thrown up charges of political opponents as a result of the controversies surrounding 1964-65 general elections. The same thing happened after 1979 election. The crisis in Oyo, in Ondo, Adekunle Ajasin versus Omobodiowo. So these have given rise to military coup in the past. Like it happened in Mali, like it happened in Guinea, like it has happened in several other places. So it is what exactly. So what we are saying is that the political class need to behave themselves. We should help INEC. I said it in my column in the point. I did say that credibility of every election is not incumbent on INEC alone. The National Assembly must play its own part. Judiciary must play its own part. I asked Barrister Okoye this morning whether they have settled the list of Anambra candidates. He said it's not yet settled. And this is an election that is holding in less than 6 weeks. But they will still publish the list of candidates on October 7th. But that will still not be final, because some of the litigations arising from this can get to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can still direct that this is not the person. So the judiciary must play its own role. The National Assembly must play its own role. The electorate must play their own role. The civil society, the media, which we belong, have to play our own role. All of us have to contribute. And that's why I'm shouting out now that, look, electoral transition will help reduce human interference in the collation process and enhance the credibility of our elections. So you cannot go behind and start altering figures between the polling unit and the collation center, or between one collation center and the next one. as has been the practice where they just mutilate altered results that have already been previously declared. So this is my own take, and I hope that the media can take it from here and do public enlightenment on this issue so that we don't miss this golden opportunity of having our electoral act amended ahead of 2023.
Well, today, I think you've made your point very, very clear. The digitization of our electoral process is very, very imperative in order to have it right.
Election.
Exactly.
And if your vote counts, you have leaders that will do right by you.
It will even enhance political participation. People will come out more.
Yes.
Rather than all this apathy that we have been having because people felt my votes will not count. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for creating time to join us on Inside Nigeria discussion this morning. Jide Ojo is an Abuja-based public affairs analyst, syndicated columnist, and TV anchor. Thank you for coming. We hope to see you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah, we hope to see you on Independence Day for our special package on Inside Nigeria. Now from here, my name is Bodi Gbadebo. Bye for now.
Bye.